What's up, guys? Welcome back to Down in Duval, the podcast that covers everything NFL and Jacksonville Jaguars related. I'm your host, Josiah, and I'm excited to be joined today by a familiar face to many of our listeners. He's a Jaguars fan and a Twitter user who does not know ball. Please welcome Brian to the show. What's up,
Thank
Brian?
Glad to be back. It's been a while. The last time I was on a show with you was when I was in Tampa. So I'm in Daytona now. So a lot's changed. And a lot's gone a lot better for the Jags too. So good things for me and the Jags. It's pretty nice to see.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In today's episode, we'll be taking a deep dive into the Jaguars' free agency moves so far, looking at who they brought in, who they let go, and what these signings mean for the team's future. Despite his lack of football knowledge, we'll be getting some fresh perspective on the Jaguars roster from a passionate fan who's been following the team for years. So whether you're a Jaguars fan or just a football enthusiast, this is an episode you won't want to miss. Let's dive right in. Hope you enjoyed that one. Uh, all right. So first things first. Overall thoughts on Jaguars free agency moves so far. I mean, I'll go ahead and start. They haven't really done all that much. We'll talk about some of the signings they have done, but going into it, they weren't really expected to do much because we didn't really have much money. We kind of had to make some moves to free up some money, but you know, it happens to the best of us. And I mean, I really like the team that we already have that we've assembled. It really kind of put everything together. Didn't really need all that much, and some people were mad that they didn't sign many people. Some people were fine with it, like myself. I think it happens. I don't think it's a big deal. But how do you feel about the overall free agency approach by the Jaguars?
I kind of knew from the start we were never going to do anything, and Trent made it clear in a press conference, I think at the combine, that they really weren't going to be active. They were going to be focusing on re-signing their own guys. And that was very evident. They didn't do anything on the whole first week of free agency, and there were some fans freaking out, like, "Oh, we're not getting better." It's like, what are we realistically supposed to do? We're bringing back about every single starter except maybe one, which was Jawan. We'll get more into, I'm sure. Um, but we did everything we needed to do, and we got a couple depth signings that I think are going to be pretty nice for the team, especially Dearness Johnson, which we'll go more into that. But they did everything they needed to do, and people just need to take a deep breath, and we are going to be fine.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it. I think people, especially Jaguars fans, are used to winning the offseason, making big signings, all that
Yeah.
stuff, but it's never really turned into actual wins and losses. Well, it's turned into losses, not wins. But with the tides turning, I think it's nice to actually, as much as fun as it is to see you make key additions and see all that money be shelled out, it's nice for a change to just have to watch everybody else do the overpaying and just know we have a solid roster. We're going to be able to build through the draft because you're not supposed to build a team through free agency. That's not sustainable. That's what we did in 2017, and it fell apart damn quickly. You build through the draft, you make solid picks in the draft, you develop your talent, and you re-sign your talent. That's how a proper team is built. That's how the Ravens have been built over the years. That's how the Chiefs have been built. It that's how good teams are made.
Right.
So yeah, let's go ahead and get into some of the signings we have made. So there's not many. None of them are huge names, but my favorite, and I think pretty much everybody's favorite signing, is running back Dearness Johnson, who previously was with the Browns. Gonna pop some highlights up right now of him. He's an interesting player because he's going to be RB2 for us immediately, in my opinion, because we did bring back
Hasty.
running back Hasty. We did bring back Hasty, but Hasty is kind of a guy who just gets you what's blocked for. If there's an open lane, he's going to hit the lane. He's going to get you the yards. But once a guy is there to tackle him, he's going down. He's not breaking tackles. He's not making guys miss. He is just getting yardage that you are blocking for him. Dearness Johnson, on the other hand, he did it against the Jaguars in the preseason before. He
Yeah.
can break tackles. He's shiftier than he tested pre-draft, and he has a pretty good yards per carry. I don't have his exact stat line on me, but he averages over 5 yards a carry for his career. He had a crazy journey. I don't know if you watched the video, but I see a lot of people on Twitter, including myself, who watched the video of his story, not getting drafted. His RAS score wasn't very good. Then going to the AFL, I think it was, Um,
I believe, yeah.
trying there, going from practice squad to practice squad, or not in practice squad, just workout to workout. Then eventually getting a shot with the Browns, where he got his shot when Chubb got hurt, and he looked damn good. So I think that was a huge signing for us. I don't know. I don't think they've released the exact details. I'm looking at Spot Rack right now, and they haven't released the exact details. He's 27. He played for Cleveland, obviously. And yeah, I think that was a huge signing because running back depth was a big thing for me personally, because we could hand the ball off to Hasty and be fine, but it was never anything that was going to change the game. And if ETN fumbled the ball, you really had nobody you could rely on to actually get you down the field. So now that ETN has a proper RB2, I think that saves us a spot in the draft potentially, and it gets us someone reliable. How do you feel about Dearnest Johnson out of
I was a
USF?
big fan. I was a big fan of him when he was starting with Cleveland. I thought he was really good. I thought he was phenomenal. I'm like, he's got. I remember talking in the chat. I'm like, this guy needs to start somewhere. I mean, yeah, he's got a good offensive line, but just because it's a good offensive line doesn't mean that the player is going to be good. He hit the holes. He's shifty. He's quick. He's not speedy, but he's got enough speed to get those chunk yards. He's not a ETN where he hits the home run ball, but he gets enough done to where he can get those big chunk yards, kind of like Robinson, but he's better than Robinson. James Robinson. He's also the best pass blocker on the team now. He's very, very good in pass pro. So when he's on the field, it's pretty evident that we're most likely passing with an opportunity to also get him the ball if Trev wants to check it down or throw whatever. But we got better in that department, and it's probably going to eliminate the need for a running back in the draft. Maybe a late guy to compete for running back 3. I don't know what's going to happen with Snoop Connor, but I think easily my favorite signing, and I think he's going to do well for us.
Yeah, that was actually a good point about the pass blocking, because that was one of ETN's biggest issues is he just wasn't that good at pass blocking, whether it was awareness, his just ability to make the blocks. He wasn't very good at it. Dearness Johnson has been pretty good at it, so he could serve to be a pretty good third down back for that, give Trevor a little bit more protection, and like you said, free up a potential draft spot. Like, I didn't think the Jags were going to pick running back before round 3, before day 3 in the first place.
Right.
But now, if they pick a running back at all, it'll definitely be probably around 6 or 7.
Yeah.
If somebody falls, shoot, take them. But
Yeah.
it really allows them to not have to target that department. And I'm a fan. I think it's a good thing. So let's move on to Michael Dogbe. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it. He's a defensive tackle, big end type player. He came from not Carolina, from Arizona on a 1-year, $1.08 million deal. $25,000 guaranteed. He's 26.8, so he's essentially 27 years old. He's just another depth piece. That's what they did. They also signed Henry Mondeaux from the Giants. I don't know his contract details, but they're both defensive tackles. They're both defensive tackle depth. A guy like Corey Peters that you had last year, they did not return him because he's like 34. Bringing in Dogbe and Mondeaux is essentially replacing Peters with younger guys that could do essentially the same thing. They're not needle movers, but they do help in the department of our depth isn't as bad as it was now. I still think we could draft the defensive tackle fairly high. I still think we could draft the defensive end very high. These guys don't really move the needle defensive draft wise unless it's like day 3. Even then, they're just bodies that'll be there for camp, might make the roster, might not, and all that jazz. How do you feel about these signings?
Well, we needed depth. I was very adamant of expecting them to draft some, or not draft, but get some free agents in the depth area because we're pretty much set on starters. We've got in a 3-4, it's probably Roy on the outside, Fatu Kasi in the middle, and then who's on the left side? Maybe Smoot if he's healthy.
He's not re-signed yet, so
no, that's right.
To be determined.
Yeah, if he resigns, he'll probably be in that spot or somebody else. But we just need depth. Which we struggled with last year, and it showed, especially in the AFC divisional round. And very excited to see what they do in the next coming weeks if they do continue to sign any depth, especially in the secondary. It's not out of the question to sign maybe a nickel, but at this point, I would not be surprised if they go nickel in round one. I really hope it's Brian Branch, not because my name is Brian, but because he's a really good player.
Let's get real. It's partially because his name is Brian.
It is, yeah, 100%.
I'm a big Brian Branch fan, by the way. He is a good player, but we know you're a big fan of him because he's got your name, bro. You don't have to hide it.
I'm getting his jersey if he gets drafted. That's all I know.
He's on my guys list, so I might have to contemplate the same decision. But yeah, I mean, those are really the only additions the team made. They did re-sign a lot of guys, though. They brought back Andrew Wingard, so it was always the Jags is back, baby. Let's go. Let's clap
Love
it up
that.
for Andrew Wingard. Get in the bag. He should be a Jaguar for life, in my opinion. Like he never has to be a great player, but he's a good rotational player, good special teams player. He just feels like Jacksonville. He should be He should be back. He should be a Jaguar for life. Uh, Chris Manhertz went to Denver. Arden Key went to Tennessee. That one was an interesting one. We'll actually talk about that right now. Arden Key, they apparently were rumored to be trying to sign him for a while, and then it never happened. Tennessee signed him to a 3-year, $21 million deal, which good for him getting the bag. He's been on a 1-year deal for the longest time. I get him wanting to get the bag. I guess he said the offer was disrespectful from the Jaguars, which I feel like anytime a player doesn't get re-signed with their team, they say the prior team's offer was disrespectful.
Yeah.
We'll never know what he actually got, but it is tough to see a player like him go. But he was a rotational guy. He's not irreplaceable. Some people thought it was the end of the world that we didn't re-sign him. I'm fine with it. And the fact that he went to Tennessee, all right, let's beat him 2 times a year for the next 3 years.
I see it as a 21 mil. He might be a starter for them. I mean, I don't think their D line's that intimidating now. I mean, they're kind of in limbo. I don't really know what they're going to be doing in the draft, and who knows what's going to happen with Tannehill. There's rumors are spreading about him possibly being traded, released. They said he's his quarterback, but let's be real, he's aging. But he might start. He definitely got money to be a starter, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does on the team. I won't be watching him for obvious reasons, but I wish him the best of luck. Everyone else in the chat just slandered the hell out of him. But, I understand why he did it. And I did find his comment about changing the city very funny. It was a great meme.
Arden Key, Jacksonville would not be the city we are without Arden Key. He founded this city. He built this city from the ground. He honestly had a bigger effect on this. He should have the nickname the mayor, not Calais Campbell, who we'll talk about later. Okay. Arden Key, he's a special human being. Jacksonville would not be Jacksonville without Arden. He is the key to Jacksonville.
Oh God. That was a good one.
But yeah, my main thought is thank you for the comp pick, bro.
Yeah, really. Appreciate that.
Speaking of comp picks, Jawan Taylor, like Brian mentioned a bit ago, the only starter we lost was right tackle Jawan Taylor, who earned a 4-year, $80 million deal from the Kansas City Chiefs. And the crazy part about it is he's not going to play right tackle. He's going to play left tackle for the Chiefs, a position he has never played in the league. And honestly, it's been so long. I don't even remember if he played it at Florida. I'm pretty sure he was a right tackle at Florida as well. But good for, what? I like Jawan Taylor because he's a Gator. He played well for us in his last year. I'll clap it up for him getting the bag. But I was not going to pay that kind of money to him, and I don't think we should be mad that we let him go because let's get real. Everybody hated the guy for the entire time he was in Jacksonville, and as soon as he leaves, it's a deal breaker. I don't think it's that kind of thing. Obviously, I wanted him back. I would have loved to have him back. He's a good player now, but he's not $80 million worth, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays at left tackle. I mean,
he's more athletic than Orlando Brown was, so yeah. He has a chance to be pretty decent. I mean, I don't think he's worth that money, but I think he'll be a fine left tackle. I think he went to the right team to do it. The Chiefs have I think they have like a really good offensive line coach. Andy Reid will know what to do with him, and his athletic ability will make it easier for him to transition compared to Orlando Brown, who's not really left tackle. He should stay at right tackle. But I think Jawan will do well, and I hope he goes off. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Chiefs is a good spot for him because Jawan's issue, he's a great pass protector. His issue is when it comes to run blocking. And the Chiefs are known for being a drop back, throw it downfield team with Patrick Mahomes. So
Yep.
him finding a team where he can protect a quarterback who has good pocket presence like Mahomes, who can get the ball out, where he's not having to run block as much as he is for us.
Right.
It's just a better scheme for him.
Yeah.
Which good for him. Getting that bag and moving on. So that means it is Walker Little season in Duval. I personally wanted Walker Little to be the left tackle, but I'm fine with him being the right tackle. I think what you could do is you could have him at right tackle for a year, get the out on cam next year, and move somebody else in at left tackle, or not left tackle, move somebody else in at right tackle next year, whether you draft him in this year's draft, sign him next year free agency, or draft him next year in free agency, draft him next year in the draft. And then you can move Walker back to left tackle. Or if he's an amazing right tackle, you just keep him at right tackle. Whatever the team decides to do, they have a lot of routes to go there. I just don't think Jawan Taylor was somebody you could bring back for that option. Chris Manhertz, like I said, went to Denver for 2 years, $6 million. That could be another comp pick. Jawan Taylor's going to net us a 3rd-round pick, almost for sure.
Yeah, pretty much guaranteed.
Arden Key's probably going to net us a 5th or 6th. And then Manhertz might net us a 7.
Right.
Which, if that is the case, I don't know what the streak is. Let me look it up. What's the streak of Jaguars not getting comp picks? We went a 13-year streak of not having a compensatory pick, and that'll likely end. That's going to end in 2024. And what's crazy is we could end up with 3 comp picks. So I think that's a sign of we're actually producing good talent. Rather than being the team who has to sign 100 people every year, we're the team other people are signing from. And I think that's good to hear. We also brought back Adam Gotsis, or Alex Clancis. Well, we brought back Trey Hearn. We brought Adam Gotsis actually got 2 years, $2.8 million. So it's good to see him locked in for a little bit. He's been a good player for us.
Yeah, he's a good run defender. We need that.
Trey Herndon is back to the dismay of many. He's back on a.
Josina Anderson said he wasn't coming back, and then he came back, and everyone was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah,
I guess the market wasn't that great, and we were probably offering the best money. I mean, that's the only explanation.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with Herndon is people hate him kind of the same way they hated Wingard. He's not a guy who should start, but he keeps ending up starting because we have injuries. Mm-hmm. So if there's not many good depth corners that you're going to get anyways. So I think Herndon is a fine depth player. Hopefully he doesn't start again this year. He's on a 1-year, $2.5 million deal, which is fine money for him. I don't really mind it. As long as he stays depth, that's what matters. Right. Aside from that, that's really all the moves that have happened. Other guys that are still in free agency from the Jaguars. The Jaguars cut Shaquille Griffin. We can mention that, actually. He is gonzo. That freed up some cap. I think everybody was ready to move on from Shaquille Griffin. He was great his first year with us. And then last year, it was rough. I'll let you talk about how it was rough.
He got burnt. I remember it very clearly, the Colts game. He got burnt by Alec Pierce, a Sean guy. And I'm like, I think that's when everybody was done with him. It was bad. And I think we could have won that game had that not happened. But he just got torched, and that was it. And then there was the meme of him slamming the ground, and I think, who was it in the background that was just like what
Probably
the hell?
Tyson.
It might have been, but it was bad. He was just. And then there was a video or a picture of him eating junk food, or looked like junk food. I can't remember what.
He was advertising for a fast food restaurant.
Right, and that just kind of the jokes write themselves kind of deal. But
and then the back injury too.
So they say. He probably wasn't.
He wasn't around the team either during our playoff run.
Nah, that spoke volumes about him as it honestly says a lot about him as a person. Like, uh, even if you know you're going to be gone from the team, or your future's in question with the team, be there with your brothers at that. But at the end of the day, they're still your brothers, and he just did not do that. And his loss, I guess, did he even sign with anybody, or is he still a free agent?
He is still a free agent currently.
That says a lot.
Yeah. Other free agents from the Jags that are still available are Marvin Jones, who maybe he comes back eventually if nobody else bites, and he comes back for like a 1 year vet minimum,
Yeah.
maybe 1 year, $1 or $2 million. Just comes back to be with the team, try and win a chip. Dwayne Smoot is a free agent, which he's an interesting one. It depends because he's obviously not going to get offered a lot of money from us because of the injury, but I don't know if he's going to get offered much from anybody else either. So we'll see if he returns. If he returns, that'll be cool. I doubt he'll play day one. He'll probably come back mid-season, late season, which that'd be a great addition at that point. But hopefully his Achilles is all right. Hopefully he's recovering, and I'd love to see Dwayne Smoot back, but I wouldn't mind it if he went elsewhere either. Last two free agents from the Jaguars are Dan Arnold and Corey Peters, which I don't imagine Corey Peters returning, and Dan Arnold, who knows if he'll return. Any of those guys you'd bring back?
No, I mean Corey Peters is 34. It's self-explanatory. Dan Arnold barely touched the field. It's not really worth it. I'd rather just have Engram, Farrell, rookie, and probably another rookie, or maybe another vet or something like that. I'd definitely look into getting a receiving tight end. Maybe Darnell Washington will be available. I mean, he's more of a pass blocker, but he's got the potential to be a really good pass catcher, and he's also on my agenda. So a little biased, but
Darnell Washington is definitely a fun player. Another move that could happen in the near future is Calais Campbell. Actually, the mayor visited the Jacksonville Jaguars this past week, and he's got a couple visits going. But Trent and Doug mentioned that they agreed to revisit it after the owners and just the meetings going on this week. After all that, they said they'd revisit it and see if it'll happen. So the mayor may be returning to Duval. How would you feel about that, man?
I don't see why anybody wouldn't want that. There's like one person I've seen that was like, he's too old, or there's no reason to bring him back. It's like, first of all, he's going to be depth. He might have a couple games where he starts, or depending on the day on the week, he might get some starting reps. But at the end of the day, he's going to be rotational, considering his age. But I'm all for it. Like, bring the guy back. He deserves a ring, and this is the year to do it. And I think it would just bring another level of excitement to the franchise and to the team and to the fan base, bringing back somebody that meant a lot to Duval in 2017. So I say they need to try to do it.
Yeah, man. Just as soon as Calais got released by the Ravens, everybody was like, "Bring the mayor back! Bring the mayor back!"
Yeah.
But the fact that he actually came on a visit to Jacksonville, showing that there is mutual interest there, is just super exciting because he could fit that Arden Key role as a role player who plays under half the snaps, but still makes a big impact. Because Calais isn't who he used to be. He's not like a defensive player of the year candidate anymore, but he can still play. He's still a guy. So he would definitely not just be, bringing back a guy the fans love. He'd be bringing back a guy the fans love, but a guy who could actually impact the team. And I don't know how expensive he'd be, but I don't particularly care because it can't be too much.
Yeah.
And if you have a chance to bring him back for a potential one last hurrah Super Bowl run, bring him back to Duval, where hopefully he'd retire as a Jaguar. Yep. I think that's a dream come true for everybody. And if that happened, I would be chanting Super Bowl until I have no breath left. Another move the Jags made was they franchise tagged Evan Engram. Apparently, conversations were going on for a while that they were trying to get a deal done. Then something happened. Rumors were his agent became goofy. I don't know much about that details, but all I know is that Evan Engram is on the franchise tag right now. I don't think he signed it yet.
No, he hasn't.
That doesn't happen till later. So they still could get a deal done, but there's a good chance he goes into the season on another 1-year deal. And if that happens, I think Evan Engram could have fumbled because there was multiple free agent tight ends, Mike Gesicki, Dalton Schultz, who got nothing. They got absolutely nothing in free agency, and that is
Yep.
not a good sign for Evan Engram. So hopefully things get worked out with Evan Engram because everybody wants Evan Engram back. I want Evan Engram back. He could easily be the franchise best tight end if he just sticks around. But at worst, he's here for one more year. Let's win a chip and see what happens after then.
Right.
Got any thoughts on Evan?
I think they'll get a deal worked out. I think the agent kind of screwed the pooch, if you will, and I think they just need to try to get a deal done. And I think his best years are with Jacksonville, where the scheme fits him best, and the coach knows how to use him. He may go elsewhere, maybe after his year, but I think he's best here, and I think he probably knows that. But if his agent keeps playing games, he's going to only be here for a year, and that's it. And they're going to end up finding a rookie to eventually replace him. Which, if they do draft a rookie early, I think that's going to be pretty telling of their stance with Evan's agent. But we will see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, speaking of, we can go ahead and talk about it. Free agency. I don't think it really changed too much of the draft. Like I said, we probably won't draft a running back. And the tight end, if we draft a tight end early, it could say how about their thoughts on Evan Engram going forward. I still think the Jaguars' biggest need is nickel and pass rusher. They could use another pass rusher on the edge. They could use another corner to eventually just become the outside corner. I think they could use a still a good defensive tackle. Like if you have a chance to get a Bryant Breesy, Kalijah Cansey type thing, you could bring them in. But overall, I don't think free agency really changed their draft position, and I still think it's a wild card where they could go. It'll be exciting to see what happens on draft day. Any thoughts on the NFL draft, free agency, how those could impact each other so far?
I don't think anything they've done in free agency has affected what they'll do in the draft, but I do think that there's probably three positions they're going to be looking at heavily in round one, and it's going to be nickel, defensive end slash edge slash outside linebacker, depending on how you look at it. And I would even say guard. I mean, I don't know what they view of Barch as in terms of how good he'll be. I love the guy. He's one of my agendas as well on my agenda. But if they don't draft a guard early, that speaks for itself on Barch. But I do think they will draft a right tackle slash a wing tackle or swing tackle to compete with Walker for the right tackle job. And the loser becomes the swing. And if for some reason Walker loses, I wouldn't be surprised if he moves to left tackle the next year after Cam probably gets released. But if Walker wins the job, I think his chances of staying at right tackle go up, especially if he does really well. If he outperforms what they expect, he's probably going to stay there and they just stick with Cam. And that's fine, honestly. At the end of the day, you got to do what's best for the offensive line. If Walker's best at right tackle, then so be it. But I think he's naturally better at left tackle.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of where I sit as well. But yeah, overall, you talked about the free agency moves. I mean, what other free agency moves, just NFL wise? Javon Hargrave got a bag from San Francisco. Derek Carr to New Orleans for a bag. Mike McGlinchey to Denver for a bag. Jimmy G to Las Vegas for a bag. Tremaine Edmonds to Chicago for a bag. Orlando Brown to Cincinnati. Orlando Brown's contract is crazy. He got $31 million guaranteed, and it all came on day one.
That's wild.
Like he woke up the Sunday after he signed that contract with $31 million in his bank account. And there's not a single guaranteed dollar for the rest of that contract.
I don't
That's
think
crazy to me.
I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's kind of a bad thing because they could just get rid of him pretty quickly.
It's bad for him. I mean,
Right.
He's still got his money, but
Right.
for them, it's good because like if he sucks, they could just dump him with no worry.
Right. And they have
I mean,
to pay him. So
yeah. Jesse Bates went to Atlanta for a bag. Dalvin Tomlinson to Cleveland. What were some other fun moves? Adam Thielen to Carolina.
that was an interesting. Chark went to Carolina.
Yep. Josh Oliver, former Jag, went to Minnesota.
He's going to be the backup to Hawkinson. So that's
going to Minnesota. Josh Oliver in Minnesota.
That'll be a good team, depending on how Kirk is again this year. I mean, there's a lot of fun moves, and we're still waiting the Aaron Rodgers trade, which who knows if it's going to happen. They're at a stalemate. They're just staring at each other, waiting for someone to make a move. And it's the longer they wait, the worse it is for both teams because they both were handicapped going into free agency because they had to wait to see what happens with Rodgers and his contract, which affects their salaries, and nothing happened. So they basically missed out on free agency for the most part. So I think it's hysterical.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sick of Aaron Rodgers at this point. It's like, bro, you're getting in the wall. You're declining, and at this point, it's like just make your decision, bro. And I think he has made his decision. Now it's just the teams.
Yeah,
Like it was Aaron Rodgers for a long time, and now
competition.
it's the teams because the Packers want more. The Jets don't want to give up as much, but obviously and the Jets said they want Aaron Rodgers. They said they're not interested in Lamar Jackson, who just requested a trade, by the way. So they basically just said, yeah. Who do you think has the leverage in this situation, the Packers or the Jets?
I think the Packers do because it's worst case. The Packers just say whatever, we're just going to release him, or somebody else maybe wants him. It's like you don't give him up, and they might have to release him. They're not going to pay him that money. So I guess you could say Rodgers has the leverage because either way, he's going to get a bag from either team. But Packers don't.
The Jets don't have a quarterback. The
Yeah, so
Packers have
they
Jordan
have
Love
no advantage
regardless.
here. They have no advantage here. And there is a rumor that their secondary option, if they can't get Rodgers, is Stafford. And I don't know about that. I mean, he was hurt all last year, but they're really playing with fire right now because if they can't get their guy with that roster, the window is going to close very quickly in a very good AFC.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see what will happen. I hope he retires just so it'll be the most hilarious
Funniest
thing I've
ending
ever
to a
seen.
saga ever. It would be the most. I would laugh so hard. Everyone would be like, "Wow, they wasted over a month just for the guy to say, you know what, I'm retiring." And then they're both, and the Packers are like, "Okay, that's fine. We got Love." And then the Jets are like, "Well, we've got nobody. Like, what are we gonna do?"
Run it back with Zach Wilson, baby. Let's go.
I guess so.
But yeah, that's a wrap for today's episode of Down in Duval, guys. I want to thank Brian for joining me on the show and sharing his thoughts on the Jaguars free agency moves. Before we sign off, I want to remind our listeners to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a rating review wherever you're watching this podcast. Appreciate all the feedback. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow Brian on Twitter at B_Roni_. You can follow me at Raining Games with 2 S's, or you can follow the podcast Twitter at Down in Duval. We love hearing from our listeners and incorporating your feedback in a future episode. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time on Down in Duval. Peace, guys.